Hello and welcome to I'll Knit If I Want To. I'm Andrea Mowry of DRK Everyday Knits, and this is a little weekly podcast where I try my best to answer some of your questions. They are mostly focused on knitting, but if you've been here for a little while, you know I also have a deep, deep love for spinning, so that comes up now and then, and sometimes other things. So we just go with the flow here. And today, I am so excited because I'm wearing a fresh off the needles Harlow hat. So I've been knitting this for what feels like forever because I cast it on as my walking project. If, again, you've been around here for a while, you know that we started a fun little hashtag called our Wandering Whips. So you can follow that hashtag over on Instagram if you like. We also have a forum for it in my Ravelry group if you are in there and maybe not over on Instagram. But basically, we walk and knit or in some way move around and craft on something. So it doesn't have to be knitting. That's just my go-to. And it's one of my favorite things to do. Excuse me. I've been making extra time for it the past couple weeks. I finally finished my last big work travel trip of the year, and it's been so nice getting home and enjoying this beautiful place that I am so lucky to live in. So we have the water nearby, and it's been crisp and chilly and my favorite season of the year. So I've been out there walking and knitting on this hat. So this hat I originally cast on because I had leftover yarn from my rad plaid cowl. So I used, it's my hand spun here. And then paired with that is some Surrey alpaca. And yes, this was a little scary when this is all I had left towards the end there. I was like, will I make it through the crown shaping? But this is leftover Surrey alpaca. It's Kumo from La Bien-Aimée. I think the colorway is called Anemone. And then this is a combo spin I did using Hello Yarn and Artifacts of Appreciation. It's a 3-ply. I think that was everything in here. I think it was 2 colorways from Hello Yarn and 1 bat from Artifacts of Appreciation. Anyways, as you can see, this is a big old monster cake. I still have enough in here. I'm trying to decide if I want to do socks or mittens because I definitely still have enough, even 2 projects in. So I use this again for my rad plaid cowl, which I wish I had up here because I could have been twinning them up, and my new Harlow hat. So when I originally cast on this Harlow hat, I was just thinking, okay, I'm just gonna do, you know, the OG 2-color brioche. I was gonna use my Surrey alpaca as my main color, my hand spun as my contrast, and I got all the way to the crown shaping and was like, I think I would like this better if I just held them double. And I love it. It is, I don't know if you can see the lovely texture. I still knit this all the way on size 2 needles. I did the medium size in the original pattern. So that is, I think it's just called like the adult small. But I did still do the whole thing on size 2s, which this yarn was probably knitting up at least a DK. I probably could have done Harlow worsted, but I just went for it and it worked out. And I actually got all the way up to the crown shaping yesterday on my walk and then did the first round of shaping, and then you have a couple plain rows between your decrease rows. I was like, okay, great. I'm gonna do this shaping and then I'll be able to walk and just knit the plain rows for a little bit. Well, I somehow mucked up the whole thing and then spent a couple hours yesterday tediously working back because I don't know what I did. I was throwing in a decrease here and forgetting one there. Like I just wasn't doing it right. And I'll tell you what's not so fun to rip back in is this combo right here. I couldn't see anything that was going on because I was holding these 2 strands together, which when you're undoing a brioche decrease, there's a lot of strands you got to deal with. And when you double those up and have one be fuzzy, and I wasn't doing it in the best lighting, it was just a little bit of a hot mess. So today is quite the celebration because I did manage to get it back and redo it, and it's finally done, and I am just so tickled. with the outcome. So I'm gonna wear it on today's walk, which I'm about to go on, but I wanted to jump up here and do this first. So anyways, yay, celebrate my brand new Harlow. I will, of course, link that pattern below. And let's jump in, do some questions. Real quick though, I'm just gonna do it now. I was gonna save it to the end, but I just feel like doing it now. So this morning I was actually winding up some more handspun to cast on my next walking project, which is also gonna be a new design that I'm very excited about. But I was like, ooh, I don't think I've shared this tip on here. Maybe I have, but if I have, I'm doing it again because I thought this was such a great example. So a lot of times when we are looking at a variegated yarn that shifts from color to color, so think hand spun yarns that's fractally spun, spin cycle yarns, anything that gradually moves in kind of a color, even Gauge Dye Works, their self-striping yarn. Theirs is kind of easier to see because it's such clean lines. It doesn't melt from one color to the next. I mean, the transitions in that yarn are actually kind of magical, but they are still defined color sections instead of something like this where you're gonna have overlapping or barber pulling in between the colors. But what I wanted to show you is a lot of times people will say, how do I know what it's gonna look like knit up? And some of that comes with practice. The more you do it, the more you can start to be like, okay, I think I have an idea of what this skein is gonna look like. But when it's all still like this is another skein of my hand spun that actually has yet to be washed. I'm working on a sweater spin and it's slow going. I don't know why, I just haven't been putting in the hours with this one. So I have this skein, another one ready to ply, and I'm on the second bobbin of the third one. So I'm not doing too bad, but it's going slow. But anyway, so you look at this and you're like, ooh, I don't really know what that's gonna look like knit up maybe. So anyways, the tip is, once you cake it up, you can actually really start to see, ooh, come on, there, oh, there it is. The color repeats. Do you see that? So we've got green, and it's gonna go purple, and then it's like this greenish blue, and then back to purple. So you can't see, I mean, it's gonna depend on what size you're knitting this on, like the circumference of it, but it does start to give you a good idea of like, oh, okay, this is going to look like that once it's all knit up. This one you can see is even more, there we go. So you can also kind of see how this is going to graduate. In my hat, okay, I'm going to take this off of my hair, but you can actually see in here, do you see the stripes? Boop, boop. You can't, the lighting in here is maybe not super great to see them, but like here, 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 here. So there's always more of a repeat, I think, in these kinds of yarns than maybe you would think. Anyways, I just thought it was a fun way to be able to look at the yarn and be like, oh, okay, I can kind of see what's going to happen once I use it. So take from that what you will. All right, let's jump into some questions. And then I have a little more show and tell, but I'll save that for the end. All right. Question number 1. I am planning to cast on for the Totally Tessellated Sock Challenge. Yay! So we cast on in less than a week, in just a few days. So I talked about this in the last episode. I'll just touch on it briefly again here. The 6th annual Fall Sock Knit Along Challenge is coming up in next weekend. So it starts on Wednesday. We cast on at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have to bind off by Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time. I will say, if the challenge part's not fun for you, you can still jump in. You do not have to knit it in a few days. You can take your time knitting them. The challenge aspect is just for those of us who find it really fun to kind of push ourselves and see if we can't knit up a pair of socks in a weekend. But come as you are. So we are doing the Totally Tessellated socks, which are hanging on my wall right here. Boop, 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 boop. And we're gonna cast them on Wednesday night. We all gather in my Ravelry forum, and you can also go on Instagram. I have the forum linked below and the hashtag below for Instagram if you want to follow along. And it's just very fun. We have some people who've been doing it since the very first year. I did this as a spur of the moment thing with my Florate socks over 6 years ago. And it was just really fun, and I love the fact that it's become tradition for some people. It's really fun to see the same faces, and then lots of new ones. So if you've never joined before, or if you have, I hope to see you there. All right, so This knitter has a crawling and cruising 10-month-old baby, and so they have limited knitting time. My question is, will an entry still count if we make a modification on the pattern, specifically if I were to knit a tessellated shorty sock? I need more shorties in my sock drawer. So for all my knit alongs, I always do a little giveaway at the end with some prizes, and there are some fabulous prizes this year. We have a Sock Squad subscription for 2024 from the Farmer's Daughter Fibers. We have a super cute Hide and Hammer knitting bag that is a Spin Cycle exclusive that they are offering up with a $100 Spin Cycle gift card tucked inside. And also the third prize is 5 of my patterns, and the other 2 also come with 3 of my patterns. So the prizes are pretty excellent. And to be in the entry, you just need to have finished your pair of socks by that Monday deadline. So, and post a picture. But yes, you can knit a pair of shorties. At the end of the day, I always want you to knit what you want to wear and what you will wear. And I'm fine with a shorty sock because people might want different lengths on the ankle. So I think that's totally fine. All right. In the past, I mean, one year we did the DRK Everyday Socks, and those have 11 sizes. I mean, people were knitting baby socks, and some were knitting adult, like the biggest size of the adult socks. So again, come as you are. It's just a fun challenge. It's a fun knit along. So it's pretty relaxed. All right, next question. I'm currently knitting your DRK Everyday Sweater. It's my 4th sweater ever and my 2nd one of your sweater patterns. My question is, when knitting the sleeves, I went up a needle size to make sure that my sleeves weren't too tight for my comfort level. If you don't already know this, I recommend this all the time. It's written into a few of my patterns. Generally speaking, as most knitters I have met, including myself, tighten up in small circumference. So what that means is basically when we knit our sleeves, we tend to knit them a little tighter than we do the body of the sweater, just because we're knitting small circumference. Even though it's same yarn, same needle size, it's just what happens. Our gauge tightens up a little bit. So a way to counteract that is by just jumping up a needle size for your sleeves. So that is what this knitter has done. I'm almost ready to knit the cuff of the sleeve. The pattern says to switch to my ribbing needle. On the body of my sweater, I use the needle size called for in the pattern to do my ribbing. So should I use that needle size to knit my cuffs? Or should I just go down 2 sizes from the the larger needle that I used for my sleeves? That is such a great question, and I'm actually really surprised that this is the first time we've been asked this, as far as I know. I don't think this one's come up before. So to be honest, I would just use the same ribbing needle you used on your body. It's such a small area, and even if you're knitting tighter, your ribbing, we want it to have that integrity. So I think knitting it on that smaller needle size you used for the body is gonna be just fine, even if it's tightens up a little bit. If you feel like it and you want to try knitting it 1 size up so it matches the sleeve, going down 2 needle sizes from that instead of 2 needle sizes from the body, that's totally fine. You can do that. But again, it's such a small area that I just wouldn't even worry about it too much. But I've always still used my same ribbing needle that I used for the body, and it's been great. Question number 3. Your love for spinning has piqued my curiosity, and I have now taken a Turkish drop spindle and a wheel spinning class and love it. My question is spinning related. So, thinner singles need more twist than thicker singles. Than thicker singles. I don't know why it's so hard for me to say those 2 words back to back, for strength reasons. But if I draft thinner, it also takes up the twist way faster than a thicker section and can easily get all kinked, and then the thicker section looks almost unspun. Is this the thing where you have to get it just right like Goldilocks? I notice that it seems way more predisposed to kink up on Corydale than Targee, which I just started trying out. Okay, so my thoughts on this one are basically what's happening when you have a thin and a thick section is that the twist naturally wants to go to the thinnest part. And so it's building up there and not going into your thick section. And that's what can be tricky about certain, especially blends that we might spin, or if you just have all of a sudden, depending on your drafting triangle, your staple length, all these things, that if your hands aren't kind of where they're supposed to be, you could have like a bleh, like a bleh. That's, I can think of it, a bleh. But we have that happen. So what I like to do is stop treadling or spinning, however you are spinning, and go to that section, and I do a little untwist at the ends, where maybe, because you can have it where the twist is going to a thin spot right before that bleh, and then right after. So I'll kind of loosen those up, and by twisting them in opposite directions to take out the twist a little bit, and then gently pull. And by pulling, you're thinning out that bleh that occurred and letting the twist then go into it. So, and that's just a refining thing that I didn't learn until after quite a bit of practice of spinning. It was actually too when I started to learn long draw, because there's a higher chance of that happening because you're not really controlling the draft of that yarn as much as you're pulling back. The fiber supply is going to kind of do what it wants, and you might get more of those bleh along the way. So that's when you can kind of stop, do that little move, and pull gently. And again, pull gently. And I'm going to tell you right now, what's going to happen is there's going to be times when you're too aggressive and it just falls a blah, 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 blah. I don't know why I'm struggling so much with saying these things right now. But there will be times where you might accidentally overdo it, pull it apart, but then you'll just kind of undo the twist a little bit on each end and reconnect them and keep going. But yeah, it's just that twist really wants to build up in that little thin spot right before the big blurb. One thing you can do too is just not fiddle with it. You know, you can break that fiber, take out that little thin spot, fluff it up and attach and keep going. But also I wanted to say, because you said if I draft thinner, it also takes up the twist way faster than a thicker section. So again, just yeah, I guess that doesn't really matter. I was gonna say, it's not that it's taking it faster, it's just that it's almost getting stuck in that thin spot and not able to get into the thick spot. So that's why if you kind of tease those fibers and spread them out a little bit, the twist will then go in there. Okay, I just want to look and make sure. Oh, and as far as the Corydale versus Targee, in my experience, Corydale has a longer staple length than Targee. So when you say kink up, I think what you're meaning is that there's too much twist. And so part of that is because with a longer staple length, you need less twist than a shorter one. Shorter one, you need more twist to keep it to hold together. A longer one, you need to be careful about getting too much twist in there, or it will get ropey. You know, it'll get too hard. There will be too much twist and it'll lose its softness. So one thing you can do is, if you are getting too much twist when you are doing a longer staple length like Corydale, then just turn up the break on your reel so that it's pulling your yarn in faster. Another thing is you could treadle slower to put less twist in. I find it harder to adjust my treadling speed than I do my break tension. I'd rather have the wheel do it than my body do it if you are spinning on a wheel for this. If you are spinning on a spindle for this, then you need to be putting less twist. So you want to not let it spin for so long before wrapping onto your cup from your single. I hope that helps. Basically, that Corydale needs less twist than the Targee. So if it's ever getting super kinky and pigtailing a lot, you probably have a little too much twist in whatever you're spinning. So you want to either have it go onto your reel or put it on your spindle quicker, or go slower with how you are applying that twist. Hope that helps. I'm always a little nervous giving spinning advice, even though I've been doing it for a while, and I think I make some pretty nice hand spun. I just am so like, it's not my, I'm not a spinning teacher. So this is just from my experience, advice from somebody who's been spinning for a couple years now. All right, let's talk about the tessellated sock knit along again. So this knitter would love to join in the sock knit along, but they're on a budget and would like to knit from stash. However, my only changing color yarn is a fingering weight yarn on the thinner side, while my main color, my color A, is a heavy fingering. It's not quite sport though. Do you think that would work? Basically, my color changing yarn would be thinner than the plain one, while on your pattern, it seems to be the opposite. But I love this color combo and don't want to purchase more yarn at the moment. So why not give it a try? The best way to know is to do a gauge swatch, and your gauge swatch could be the cuff of your sock. Although if you want to do it for the knit along, you would then have to wait until Wednesday to cast that cuff on. But you can swatch prior to the knit along starting, just not if it's going to end up being part of your finished sock if you plan on entering it for the giveaway. But I would absolutely give it a go. If you love that color combination, I used in that pattern, it technically calls for like a fingering, a sport, and a lace weight. And I really think you can play around within that realm. So I would definitely give it a try, and gauge swatch is the best way to know. I'll also say you don't have to use a color changing yarn in there if it's ends up being your troublemaker, is that color changing one that's a little on the thin side. If you swatch with it and it's not quite there, go ahead and throw a solid in. It doesn't have to be a color changing yarn. But I say if you love that combo of yarns, I would definitely give it a go and see if you can get gauge. All right, last question. Okay, my question is about what to do when a sweater knit in the round twists to one side. I'm currently knitting on a top-down summer top out of a linen silk blend. It has a lace panel on the front, and now that I'm a few inches past the armholes, I can see that the lace panel leans significantly in one direction. Will this block out? Is there something I'm doing to cause this to happen? Is there anything I can do to keep this from happening? So I would be curious about the lace, and so lace is usually made up of a combination of increases and decreases to open up holes in the fabric in certain spots and close them in other to create the lace. So I would be curious about if all of those decreases are leaning in the same direction. That just popped into my head and I'm just curious. But my other thought is I do see this happen a lot of times actually in 2-color brioche, and it's usually due to an unbalanced yarn. So an unbalanced yarn is when it's, we have to put twist in a yarn to hold those fibers together. And so when it's balanced, sorry for my snuffle there. When it's balanced, it will just lay straight. So it's not curling back on itself, it's just hanging down. And so, this is my pretty hand spun. So, when it is balanced, your stitches should go up and down in columns. If it's not balanced, that means there is too much twist in one direction or the other that is causing it to bias. And where this is most common is with a single ply yarn, because when we have more than one ply, we spin the single ply in one direction, but then when we ply, so I want to say that differently because I'm saying ply a lot and I feel like that's confusing. So the first thing we do when we are making yarn is we spin a single, and that is just one strand, and we spin it in one direction, so typically clockwise. But now if we want to add multiple singles together to create a plied yarn, so 2 or more of those singles are then going to be twisted together, we then ply them in the opposite direction than the singles was spun, so counterclockwise. And what that does, since we've now put twist in that yarn going one way and then the other, it helps that yarn to hang more straight to balance it, so it's not skewing one way or the other. So obviously, not having seen your project or the yarn you're using or anything like that, I'm just guessing, my most educated guess as to why it might be biasing like that. So my other thought is it's the yarn. It's a linen and silk blend. I don't know if that would be a single ply, but if it is a single ply, that could be it. That's why that could be causing the bias. Now, will it block out? I don't know. I can't guarantee that. But what I would do, especially if it's bothering you, is I would pause right where you are. I would throw it on some waste yarn, and I would either wet block it or steam block it. And I think a steam block would even help suffice to give you an idea. And let it dry and then see if that helps straighten it out. Because it could just be, again, I don't know the lace panel you're doing, but that lace panel before blocking totally changes lace. You know, that's how we open it up and get it to its full self. So right now it might be looking kind of funky, but once you block it, it might just open up and be exactly as it should. Okay, and is there anything I can do to keep this from happening? Basically just knowing your yarn and maybe doing a swatch of the stitch pattern with that yarn and letting that swatch dry. I mean, you can see, so I've had it with my hand spun where it was not balanced, and I knit a swatch and I was playing around with different techniques, and I mean, it looked like a parallelogram where like those sides were like whoop, you know, these were up and down on the edges, but then the top and bottom of my swatch were like think. So again, it could just come down to the yarn. But anyways, if anybody else has any ideas or tips on that, please feel free to share them, as with everything. Okay, so I just was shouting in here. I have headphones in, so maybe it just sounded really loud to me, but I don't know why I got so excited. It's because I haven't gone for my walk yet. I have all this pent up energy. Okay, a couple things. Actually, let me do this first and then we'll go into show and tell. So we are currently in a fundraising push for Sisters United, which is a nonprofit started by my friend Candace of the Farmer's Daughter Fiber to help support the Indigenous community in lots of ways. They are trying to hit a goal of fundraising $40K this month. And so one of the ways we are helping to do that is the tessellated sock pattern, totally tessellated socks and any yarn bundles sold through the Farmer's Daughter Fiber or Spin Cycle Yarns. We are all donating 15% of those profits straight to Sisters United through the end of the knit along, which is on November 27th. You can also go directly to Sisters United, which I'm throwing a link below, and donate directly, or you can buy some of their merchandise. They have really cute merchandise, again, to help benefit Sisters United. And I'm so excited because tomorrow I have a very special collaboration coming out with Thread and Maple and the Farmer's Daughter Fiber. We teamed up to make really cute gift bundles, and I can't wait to show you. But we are also donating a portion of those proceeds to go to Sisters United. So keep an eye. It will go out. I'll have a newsletter going out and I'll share on Instagram as well. And I know that Thread and Maple and the Farmer's Daughter Fiber will also be sharing, I believe, through those same avenues, their newsletters and Instagram. But we're really, really excited to show you what we've been working on for the past year for that. And I think that's all for that. There's also the Insta Friends knit along is still going on. That'll be going on for the next couple months for the Traveler Shell. I've been seeing some swatches. I love that people are using their pockets as their swatches. So anyways, that is some of the fun stuff going on right now. Sorry, my mom is currently trying to text and call me. I will call you back, Mom. Okay, so that is all for that. And as some of you may know, if you follow me over on Instagram, and I think I talked about this a little bit last week, but I have been trying to learn how to use a support spindle. So if you are not familiar with a support spindle, it looks like this. So a lot of times it has something on the bottom. It might be, this is still attached to my fiber, a bead. Look at, this is this cute little, oh, that's its booty. Cute little sheep. There's all kinds of supported spindles, but the whole point is that they are supported. So you put them in a dish, which I don't have mine over here, but you put them on something and you spin on there, ooh la la, and then you draft off the tip, and it's a great way to spin woolen style on a spindle. And it has been very challenging for me. It feels like learning to spin or knit all over again, where my hands feel really awkward and like they don't know how to do this. But I'm doing a 100-day challenge with some of my local spinning pals, and I am so excited because this, my friends, come on, whoop, there it is. I feel like I finally get it. I feel like I understand how to brace this gently so that I can spin off the tip. And I'm just going to tell you, just in case you also are on a journey with supported spindling and no one has told you this, because this was the game changer for me that finally got me there. I had to start with a park and draft. So a park and draft is where you are spinning, you put some, I wish I don't have my dish, so this isn't really gonna work. Okay, let's just bring this over here. So park and draft would be where I would basically do a bunch of twist and then pull my yarn out and then add more twist, etc. So I'm getting all the, I got scared that I accidentally undid this. But so the goal with this is to eventually get to the point where you are adding your twist while drafting. So at first I was like, anytime I would try to do it, I would pull and it would just pull my spindle. And I'd be like, I literally don't understand. Like, this is never gonna work. I'm always gonna have to do this park and draft method. I don't know what magic these other spindlers are using, but I can't do it. And now I finally realized I had to do it like a supported long draw. So basically you spin, and then when you need to pull, you pinch your fiber supply here so that the spindle can still be spinning in your palm, like gently resting, while you pull against your fingers and draft out and then open to let the twist in. I didn't know this, y'all. I just had to learn it. I just had to figure it out through 2 weeks of, oh, you know what I'm doing right now? That question earlier where there's the tight spot. And see, it's so hard to have it not focus on me back here. Come, there it is. See that? That's a bull. So that's what I'm talking about. So I'm untwisting on either side, rotating in different directions, and then it's not gonna focus on me. I mean, it is focusing on me if I get out of the way. And then I'm just gently drafting that apart. But you have to see how gentle you have to be, because otherwise you can pull it right apart. But thankfully I didn't. Okay, so anyways, this is my support spindling. I'm so excited. This little guy's resting, and then I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually ply it with 2 strands of this, which is my Rhinebeck fiber that I processed myself. This is a Rolag from Hikari Handmade, which makes absolutely beautiful Rolags. And I think now that I have tried Rolags, bat, and comb top, I think Rolags might be my favorite for the support spindle so far. But I also wanted to show you, here's my first little practice baby on the support spindle. So I spun this on my support spindle. It was also from a Rolag, and then I made it into a center pole ball, and I plied it as a 2-ply onto my drop spindle. I'm not gonna try and ply on here. I mean, maybe I will someday, but I have a feeling I'll mostly ply for bigger projects still on my wheel. But okay, I have to end this here because I'm late for a very important date. But I will say, as my ending note here, that I really, really love how this is making me slow down and savor, if you will, every moment with the fiber and the spindle. I think a lot of us wheel spinners feel like, I don't want to slow down, like I want to make some yarn, and I can do it so much faster on a wheel. But I have been so surprised and delighted by how wonderful it has felt for me to just slow down and really, really enjoy the process and not rush it. So anyways, that has been a delightful surprise, and I'm so proud of myself that I stuck with it, because whew, for a minute I was like, all right, it looks like I'm gonna be selling some spindles because this is challenging. But I stuck with it, and here I am to say, I am a support spindler, and I'm so excited. So that is it for today. I gotta end this here, but thank you so much. I don't even know where this camera is anymore. Thank you so much for joining me as you get into your weekend here. I hope you get to make something that fills you up. Maybe you'll try and learn something new. And I hope to see you back here next week in the midst of our knit along. Come join us. And I guess that's it. If you enjoy these, I'm gonna do one of these because apparently I'm supposed to, but if you do enjoy these, it is so helpful if you hit that like and subscribe button so that you know the next time a video is gonna come out. All right, thanks y'all, I'll see you next week.